Where is Pikachu? The mid-2000s were a weird time. Shrek? But perhaps the weirdest thing during this era was the Pokemon franchise. The series was just transitioning out of its fad phase and into its trend phase, while beginning to establish the roots of the cultural mainstay phase it occupies today. That would explain why Pokemon's coolest, most experimental video games were released around this time. Pinball? Yeah, sure. A game where you become the Pokemon? Makes sense, I guess. I wonder what lasting effects it'll have on our youth. A game whose sole existence is to provide an additional place to store your Pokemon? Pokemon Trozei? What the heck is a Trozei? Pokemon was dipping its toes into any and everything around this era. It was like the series was trying to prove its staying power as a media franchise by showing off just how fluid and marketable it could be. The result was a lot of weird promotions, but more importantly, a ton of great, memorable games and Pokemon Dash. That includes a certain little sub-series that began on the Nintendo GameCube. Pokemon Colosseum, developed not by Game Freak, but by Genius Sonority. Nowadays, they're locked in Pokemon Cafe Remix jail, but back in the day, they were trapped in Pokemon Trozei jail. And they also made some other games as well. Pokemon Colosseum is often regarded fondly by older fans of Pokemon, but why? What exactly does Colosseum offer that still makes it stand out almost 2 decades later? Domestic terrorism. Pokemon Colosseum doesn't pull any punches. Right from the get-go, the protagonist blows up the hideout of his former employer, steals a Pokemon snagging machine, and drives off in the most physics-defying motorcycle ever made. You could say he's a cool guy, but man, what an introduction. I can't wait to see what else the game does to flesh out his character. Huh? Still, any Pokemon fan playing Colosseum for the first time was likely hooked by this introductory cutscene. Compared to the relatively peaceful, uneventful beginnings of the mainline games, Colosseum's intro was like a sucker punch that showed just how different the game was compared to any Pokemon game before it. Any non-Pokemon fans looking in from the outside probably won't notice a difference between a mainline game and Pokemon Colosseum though. They'll just be like, oh look, it's Pikachu. But for fans of the series, there's a lot of reasons why Colosseum is so celebrated. I have them all written down right here. Yeah. Pokemon Colosseum is a cool game. You had the intro cutscene to establish the fact, and every other aspect of the game to enhance this fact, the first being evident right from your very first battle. There's a reason why the official Pokemon VGC Championship uses double battles as its format of choice. It's because they're scared of fun bro. But it's also because double battles bring a whole new boatload of strategies and nuance that can't be found in single battles. You have to worry about which foe to target, the different effects of some moves in double battles, hurting your ally with spread moves, and a lot more little details you have to consider. Plus, traditional single battle tactics like setting up or self-destructing have to be approached more carefully because nothing sucks more than getting a Dragon Dance off only to be paralyzed by one opposing Pokemon and knocked out by the other. Every battle in Pokemon Colosseum's story mode is a double battle, helping it stand out amongst other Pokemon games. It also helps Colosseum just feel cooler than the mainline games. It feels fresher, more complex, more sophisticated, and more difficult than any other mainline Pokemon game that released at the time, and honestly, it still goes toe-to-toe with many Pokemon games today. While doubles are undoubtedly more complex than singles, I do wish that Colosseum explored more double battle specific tactics in its story mode. Occasionally, a cool strategy will be on display, such as setting up a rain for a team of rain-dependent Pokemon, but it would have been fun to see some more double battle exclusive gimmicks and strategies shown off. While double battles are definitely interesting, they're enhanced by another prominent feature of Colosseum: Shadow Pokemon. You see, your companion, or girl, has a really good nose, so when a Shadow Pokemon eats something off the Taco Bell dollar menu and lets out a beef-powered queef, she can smell them from a mile away and will alert you that a certain Pokemon just ripped a fat one. It's then up to you to quarantine the threat by using that snag machine you stole in the intro cutscene to apprehend the Shadow Sharder. You must then battle with this phantom pooter, slowly opening the door to their heart until you can eventually convince them to stop ordering Taco Bell and start eating healthier. Once they're ready, you can purify them at your local Freshies, thus absolving them of their foul stench and freeing them from the shadowy grasp of whatever they put in the goddamn Dorito taco. Shadow Pokemon are awesome because they simultaneously eliminate the need for wild Pokemon and add another layer of strategy to trainer battles, as you have to juggle snagging the Shadow Pokemon with knocking out the rest of your opponent's party. It also helps you develop a closer bond to your Pokemon because you have to battle with it over and over again to slowly open the door to its heart, because only once you unlock its heart can you actually level the guy up. Then in battle, you have to juggle their hyper sleeper mode, which they occasionally enter when they decide to fart super loudly. Why am I still going with this analogy? This is somewhat diminished by the fact that you have second chances later in the game to snag shadow Pokemon that you missed earlier, but still, the whole mechanic is executed well and remains an integral part of Colosseum's identity. It also factors into Colosseum's inherent coolness, as you're essentially breaking a cardinal rule of Pokemon by stealing other people's Pokemon, but it's being done out of love, so technically it's not really stealing. I'm honestly surprised that shadow Pokemon haven't appeared in any other games besides Colosseum and its direct sequel, XD Gale of Darkness. It's a unique mechanic that works well in gameplay and has a lot of potential for expansion. I mean, there's a reason why shadow Pokemon appear a lot in Pokemon fan games. Simply put, double battles in shadow Pokemon are great, and they make Colosseum great too. However, we also have to talk about the fact that this game takes place in Nevada. Hey, have you seen a Pikachu nearby? You know, small, yellow, marketable? No, not that. Not that either. Nope. You're in the middle of the Orre region. How do you not have anything Pokemon related?
This is a gas station.
You're in the middle of the desert.
If you want, I can get you a drink. We got gasoline.
Anything else?
Gasoline.
Don't you have any water?
By any chance are you a car?
Pokemon Colosseum is set in the Orre region, and it's a dubious little place. There's so many dilapidated buildings, rusted metals, and grimy surfaces, and everything has this roguish charm to it. If a traditional Pokemon region were a city, Orre would be the dark alleyway. It's equal parts sketchy and full of surprises, which is exactly why I like it. Pyrite Town is the first place I think of when I remember Pokemon Colosseum, and for good reason. There's no place in Pokemon quite like it. Thugs roam the streets itching for a battle, shop signs hang by a thread, and everything in this rusty metal town is in disrepair, from the patchwork bridge to the town's rundown arena. There's even a fortune teller and a greasy hotel where you have to pay to heal your Pokemon. Oh my god. Hammerlock and Sword and Shield tried to replicate the decaying metal aesthetic, but Pyrite Town did it first and did it better. Much of the Orre region is a decidedly shady, slimy place that you couldn't see the squeaky clean mainline games attempting today, and Pyrite Town is the region's magnum opus. It also helps establish the fact that Pokemon Colosseum is a cool game.
You're really spending all this time to talk about a 15-year-old Pokemon game solely because you thought it was cool?
Basically, yeah. Everything from the intro cutscene to the double battle focus to the shadow Pokemon to the region of Orre itself helps Pokemon Colosseum establish a style all its own that has been seldom seen in other Pokemon games. It's a sleazy region with even more memorable locations besides just Pyrite Town. There's the Under, which is the aptly named underground portion of Pyrite Town that blends retro 60s Japan with the grit and grime of the town above. There's a diner at the start of the game built within an abandoned train. Then there's Mount Battle, which completely defies physics. Seriously, how do these fans even work? I like to imagine that there's 100 little guys standing underneath each fan and blowing upwards for 8 hours a day to keep it afloat.
Takes up. You clearly need it.
But for every seedy, ramshackled location in the Orre region, there's also a place that's just plain beautiful. Well, as beautiful as mid-2000s 3D graphics can be. Fanac City is an oasis in the middle of the desert, complete with water and a waterfall. Can you tell what the city's known for? Yes, you're absolutely correct. It's kidnapping. Agate Village is a lush, green, cliffside settlement for retired Pokemon trainers that feels like a second home. Quaint music, vibrant greenery, cool rock that purifies shadow Pokemon, furry grandma. Even though Colosseum undoubtedly looks rough by today's standards, it still manages to create a memorable world with what it has. This includes the trainers living in Orre. Rather than the typical everyday folks like youngsters and lasses, you've got bounty hunters, bodyguards, buckaroos, a guy whose defining personality trait is his bandana, roller skaters, street performers, and fun old men, all tough hardy types who'd fit right at home in the unforgiving conditions of Orre's deserts. They also have some really unconventional names that seem like they were generated by scrambling real names until they sounded like onomatopoeias. Like, who names their child Gurks, especially when it can mean this, that, and domestic terrorism. However, the named characters in this game are pretty forgettable, even though ones with standout designs or story relevance are decidedly one-note and unremarkable, and this extends from the supporting cast to the villains. We've also already established that the protagonist has no discernible personality, as is usual with Pokemon games, and your companion, the one that points out all the shadow Pokemon to you, is straight up replaced by a machine in Pokemon XD. So I think that says a lot about society. Speaking of the story, there's nothing to write home about here either. Silent protagonist takes on evil organization and triumphs using genetically modified creatures. Standard Pokemon fare. I know Pokemon games don't have complicated plots, but on a scale of Pokemon Red and Blue to Pokemon Black and White, Colosseum leans towards the left. Oh well, at least the music is good. Do you have anything besides gasoline?
Well, we got
How are you doing that with your mouth?
we also have some for the entrepreneuring individual. Or perhaps you'd be interested in some.
Actually, do you have any...
Sorry, we ran out of that one last week.
Darn. There's Pirate Town's snazzy beat, Agate Village's homely tune, and so many more tracks that make Colosseum what it is. Undeniably cool, yet still sincere at heart. Oh yeah, there's also this guy. You didn't think I'd forget about the greatest human being to ever live, did you? Mirror B is a one-of-a-kind specimen, an enigma of a man whose mystery is only matched by his charisma. He has more hair than your entire family tree. He has more Ludicolos than you have hoes. He isn't a bad guy. He simply decides to lend his services to a criminal organization. 1,000 Morocco-wielding angels descend from the heavens every time Mirror B enters a battle to perform his Nobel Prize-winning theme. Most of Colosseum's characters are flat and boring, but Mirror B has the charisma of 20 characters stored inside of his planet-sized afro. He doesn't need to rely on a legendary Pokemon to anchor his team, because every one of his Pokemon are legendarily funky. Mirror B is not just the pastor preaching, but the gospel and the Lord himself all at once. He is omnipotent. He is almighty. He has a really funny side quest where his imposter, Miracle Bee, rolls up with the best worst battle theme of all time. Simply put, the Orre region is cool, Mirror B is cool, and in case you haven't heard already, Pokemon Colosseum is cool too. But there is one more reason why people remember this game so fondly. Alright everyone, it's time for me to talk about Pokemon difficulty.
Pokemon games are too easy nowadays. You just spam one move and win. I miss the good old days when Pokemon was challenging and fulfilling.
What do you think about my Pokemon fan impression? Did I sound convincing enough?
And don't come back.
It's true that mainline Pokemon games have gotten easier over the years with the addition of various hand-holding mechanics, and it's also true that Pokemon Sword and Shield's easy difficulty diminished its worth. But personally, I don't play Pokemon to waste hours grinding levels at 2 times speed just to win a battle or forget about a week later. I play Pokemon to collect cool creatures and get little dopamine rushes when I land critical hits. I can understand the fanbase's desire to have a more difficult Pokemon game, but it's not something that I personally care all too much for. If I wanted a challenging battle experience, I would just hop on Showdown, because you can only get so much from fighting a CPU instead of a real person. Also, Sword and Shield had way more problems beyond just its difficulty, such as its visual presentation, lack of voice acting, and how dumb Dynamaxing is. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, Pokemon Colosseum is a baby game for toddlers. Okay, it isn't that easy, but Colosseum's difficulty is not anything to write home about either. The two biggest things that contribute to the game's increased difficulty are A, having to snag shadow Pokemon, and B, trainers having fairly high level Pokemon. But for A, you don't have to catch every single shadow Pokemon you fight on the first go around. Most of them have a second chance available later on, in case you fail the first time. And for B, it isn't mandatory for you to grind for levels to finish Colosseum. I only grinded for a handful of levels because I like having my team equal, and I was still able to clear the final battle on my first try, despite lacking many healing items and being around 10 levels under. Also, I've seen a lot of praise for how the selection of Pokemon you can get in this game is limited, but all it does is make the best Pokemon, like the legendary beasts, even more over-centralizing. Basically, Colosseum is a slightly harder than average Pokemon game, but that's not saying a lot. If you want a Pokemon game that pounds your nuts into powder, try a ROM hack, or go on Showdown, or just play the original Pokemon Mystery Dungeon as Machop. Pokemon Colosseum is not as difficult as everyone says, but it has an abundance of unique charm and gameplay mechanics that makes it the coolest Pokemon game of its era, and an experience still worth revisiting almost 2 decades later. The game also has a ton of longevity in the form of the 100-man Mount Battle Challenge, which I refuse to do, the post-game story, which I also refuse to do, and the ability to link up your Game Boy Advances to have battles in glorious mid-2000s 3D, which I physically cannot do. I swear I like this game. If anything, you should at least give Colosseum a try if you're a fan of the mainline Pokemon games, because there is truly no other Pokemon game like it. Well, there is its sequel, but I'll cover that in its own video later. Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness does enough of its own thing that it warrants a separate look. As for Pokemon Colosseum, it can rest easy knowing that even in 2022, it's still as stylish and memorable as it was in 2003, and it also now costs an arm and a leg to acquire nowadays. Jesus. Where the heck am I gonna find this darn Pikachu? Ooh!